Hi, welcome to another episode of Word Mentality on Grammar and Thongs, where I look at the origin of words or phrases. Today I want to talk about the Strait of Hormuz, or the Straits of Hormuz, depending on what news article you're reading. And obviously it's been in the news a lot lately. So, is it the Straits of Hormuz or the Strait of Hormuz? And is it spelled Straight or Strait? All right, let's answer that question. First of all, let's look at a map to see where the Strait of Hormuz is, and I'll show you something that will explain which of these we use. So this is the Persian Gulf, and we've got Saudi Arabia, Iran, and then Iraq. That's a Q there, Iraq. The issue geographically is that this land comes up like this, and then kind of goes down here, and this is the open sea here, and then we've got two other countries, the UAE, United Arab Emirates, just in that little bit that points out, and then Oman down here. My borders aren't correct, please forgive me. But this is the Strait of Hormuz, dotting through here. And as you can see, it gets very constricted, very narrow, and that's what strait means. And that's why it's an issue for shipping, because there's actually only a 2-mile passage where oil tankers can come out from the Persian Gulf into the open sea, and that's where 20% of the world's oil and 25% of the world's liquefied natural gas comes through, and so obviously that can be problematic if it's a bottleneck. So it means constricted or tight, and that's why it's this version, not this version. So let's cross that out. It doesn't mean straits, and you can see it's not straight. It's going curling around like that. In fact, the word straight, as in a straight line, if you go back through its origins, comes from a word the meaning stretch, whereas the word straight, spelt like this, R-A-I-T, comes from the word meaning tighten or constrict. And so that all makes sense. If you think in our own backyard, we've got the Bass Strait, which separates Tasmania from mainland Australia, and we've got the Torres Strait at the other end of our country to the north, which separates Australia from Papua New Guinea. So it means any narrow, constricted stretch of water. Okay, so we've got rid of straits. But that leaves the question, is it straight or straits? Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about the word straight, and we'll get to why there's a bit of confusion around that. So straight means constrict, as I said. You still see it in a few other circumstances. It's not all that common, but we do still get it in words like straight jacket. Okay, so it's a constricted jacket, okay, to stop people from hurting themselves or others. And then we might also see it in old expressions like if you say someone is straight-laced, okay, which literally means the laces are done up tight, perhaps on their corset, but figuratively what it means is that they're quite sort of prim and proper, narrow-minded mentally, in terms of their attitudes towards things. So narrow-minded, narrow jacket, narrow stretch of water. The other place that we see it is you sometimes hear people talk about straitened circumstances, and that's about if your financial situation has been tightened and narrowed, and so you're in trouble in terms of paying your bills. Cost of living is straitened circumstances, and that's where we get names like the band Dire Straits. Okay, because when those boys named their band in 1977, they were poor, struggling musos trying to make it. So they were living in straitened circumstances. They were living in dire straits. Now, this brings us to why it's sometimes known as a plural, the Straits of Hormuz, because a lot of our sayings about it, it's come to mean just a difficult set of circumstances. So for ship's captains, it's a difficult area to navigate, and there's probably going to be dangers ahead as you go through the strait. In life, that's come to mean navigating difficult circumstances as you go through the days and months ahead. So if you've got dire straits, that means you're in difficult territory. in terms of your life. But we talk about it in the plural. In fact, it used to just be the straits, like, or there are straits ahead. Okay, so you talk about these as periods of time, dire straits. And I think that's why sometimes you see areas that are narrow passages of water referred to as straits rather than straits. So you will see Straits of Hormuz. But that is also, strictly speaking, geographically incorrect. It is the Strait of Hormuz. It's understandable why we make this mistake. Another final example is, this is a passage from the Bible. This is from Matthew chapter 7, verse 14. And it says, "Straight is the gate," as in narrow is the gate, "and narrow is the way." But we have taken from this phrase the saying, "on the straight and narrow." And when you see that written out, it has been changed over the years to straight and narrow, and now comes to mean, you're staying on the right path, you're doing the right thing, you're on the straight and narrow. So as you can see, it is confusing, as a lot of things in this part of the world are, but I think we've now resolved the issue of the Strait of Hormuz. Thank you.